This video will recount a horrific crime that took place almost 50 years ago. The victim was Gretchen Harrington, the daughter of a local minister. For years, this murder kept the locals in the dark, but it wasn't until July 2023 that the killer was caught. Who he turned out to be shocked not only those who knew him, but millions of people around the world. Subscribe to this channel and don't forget to click the bell to get notifications about new videos. Marple Township is a small town in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. It is actually a suburb of Philadelphia. It is a very quiet place with beautiful homes and lots of trees. It is often chosen by those who want a quiet and safe life for themselves and their children. But it doesn't always work out that way. In 1975, the daughter of a local minister, Gretchen Harrington, was 8 years old. Her father was a respected man in the town's community, and the girl herself was a local favorite who was known in Marple by everyone. On Friday, August 15th, Gretchen left home to go to summer Bible school at Trinity Chapel Church, which was only a few blocks from her home. She had been attending the school for a week and had been taken there by her older sister, but this time she went on her own. The Harrington family home was on a hill that overlooked the road along which Gretchen was to walk, so her father decided to watch her as she walked, but he did not wait until she had gone all the way and returned to the house. This is something the man will regret for the rest of his life. The girl left the house at 9 a.m. The whole way should have taken only 10 minutes. So, when around 11 a.m. her parents found out that their daughter had not reached school, they immediately called the local police station and reported the child missing. Because of the age of the missing girl and the circumstances of the disappearance, the law enforcers immediately started searching for her. They also invited sinologists, and it yielded results. The dogs picked up a trail that led to a certain place along the road. This clearly indicated that the girl either got into the car by herself or was placed there by force. Gretchen's parents adamantly rejected the possibility that their daughter would have gotten into a car with a stranger. This made the situation in the town even more alarming. The kidnapper could have been any of the locals. That same day, more than 200 volunteers began searching for the missing girl. Since the initial search efforts failed, the next day, Saturday, even more people gathered. More than 400 volunteers combed the wooded area in the neighborhood. Even a helicopter was used for the search. However, they failed to find anything useful for the investigation. At the same time, detectives found witnesses who saw the girl walking her route along Lawrence Road at 9:20 to 9:25. And 2 days after the child went missing, local resident Sharon Smith said that while driving to work and standing at a stoplight, she saw a car stop nearby. The driver get out, cross the street, walk over to the girl, and talk to her about something. But the woman did not know what happened next, as the traffic light turned green, and she continued driving. Who the man she saw was, the witness did not know, and described his vehicle as a green station wagon or Cadillac with a light-colored top and dark bottom. Traffic on Lawrence Road was not very unlit that day, and police determined that the car seen by Sharon Smith and another car, a four-door white in poor condition, were passing there in that particular time frame. Police soon received a call from a woman who said she had information about the car and its driver. But the witness kept confusing her statement, and over time, it became clear that she was likely making up the story. The other car was described as being similar to a green Rambler station wagon, driven by David Zandstra, the pastor of the Trinity Chapel Church the girl was walking to. Investigators interviewed him, but he said he did not see Gretchen that day. Police had no reason to disbelieve the clergyman. Detectives did a lot of work interviewing a lot of people. It took a lot of effort to work out the dead-end versions. There were witnesses who supposedly saw the girl after she disappeared. However, it turned out to be just similar children. At this stage, the investigation stalled. On October 14, 1975, 2 months after Gretchen's disappearance, a man jogging in Ridley Creek State Park saw what looked like a skeleton. He looked closer and saw what was clearly a fingernail and immediately ran after the park ranger. It quickly became clear that the body belonged to Gretchen Harrington. Since the girl's mother sewed her own clothes for her children, she had no trouble identifying her daughter's clothes. The medical examiner, using dental records, confirmed that it was Gretchen's. It was also determined that she was killed by several hard blows to the head. Investigators speculated rape, but the autopsy found no evidence of that. The location where the remains were found was about 8 miles from the victim's home. On Sunday, after Gretchen's body was found, her father Harold gave a sermon, saying these words: "Gretchen, because of her simple faith in Christ, is free, but her murderer is in terrible bondage. The world is filled with unspeakable evil because of the wickedness of a man who knows the truth but does not accept it." Despite the discovery of the body, the police found no new leads and were unable to move forward with the investigation. This came as a big blow to both the family of the deceased and the local residents. All the evidence, documents, and tapes of witness testimonies were put in a box and put away in an archive. One of the first to arrive at the scene where the body was found was Detective Richard Mankin. "It looked really bad. I don't think I'll ever forget it," the policeman described what he saw. And so it was. Mankin's son said his father was the lead investigator on the case until he retired in 1993 and remembered it until his death in 2020. Despite the area's low crime rate, there were occasional murders. Just 3 years before Gretchen disappeared, 39-year-old Mary Hanig was murdered in her driveway. The woman caught 2 burglars trying to steal a color television from her home. That crime was also investigated by Richard Mankin. He looked into 60 potential suspects, but was never able to identify the killers. And 3 months before Gretchen's murder, on May 17, 1975, in the neighboring town of Media, just 5 miles from the Harrington's home, another very strange event occurred. On a Saturday afternoon, the Eaton family went to the country club to play golf, but 15-year-old Wendy decided to stay home. She sunbathed and then talked to a friend, whom she told that she was going to go downtown to buy a gift for her brother. Wendy was then seen walking 3 blocks from her home at about 3:05 p.m. at the intersection of Indian Lane and Media Station Road. She was heading toward downtown. She was never seen again. Search dogs were able to track her to the intersection, but that's where her trail ended. Wendy was very interested in religion, played piano and guitar, and that day, she was supposed to go to a rehearsal for a church music group. As Wendy's parents said, she would never miss it. Shortly after the girl disappeared, unknown people contacted the Eaton family and demanded $10,000 for information on their daughter's whereabouts. While receiving the first installment of the ransom, a 17-year-old teenager was arrested. His accomplice turned out to be a man named William Richardson. As it quickly turned out, they knew nothing about the kidnapping and just decided to make money on the girl's parents, who were out of place. Wendy Eaton's case is still open. In 2021, investigators received new information and even excavations were conducted. Variants of her appearance in adulthood have also been created, but so far this has not borne fruit, and the fate of the missing person is still unknown. The parents thought that their children were not at risk here. They were wrong. The kids were never safe, said Gretchen's older sister, Harriet Myers. Marple Township Police Chief Brandon Grafe agrees with her. In 1975, when the Harrington family had their misfortune, there were 435 murders in Philadelphia. Just a decade earlier, the rate had been half that. Also significant is the fact that serious crimes occurring in the area in different years remained unsolved. That was also the case 10 years after Gretchen's murder. In 1985, another murder was committed in Marple. This time, the victim was Frank Forlini. He was shot while sitting in his car parked outside a Kmart supermarket. Police officers had no doubt that it was a contract killing, as Forlini was a notorious member of the Italian Mafia in Philadelphia. His killers were also not found. Interest in the Gretchen Harrington case was sparked to a wider audience in 2022 after a book about the case was published. The authors were former classmates Mike Mathis and Joanna Falcone Sullivan, who lived in the same town at the time of the murder and were only 2 years older than the murdered girl. They were well aware of everything that was going on there at the time and were familiar with all the participants. Shortly after the book was published, a woman called the local police department and told Detective Nick Coffin that she knew the killer of Gretchen Harrington. It turned out that in 1975, she was 10 years old and lived in Havertown, 3 miles from Marple Township. At the time, she was friends with the daughter of a local minister and often had sleepovers with them. On one such night, she realized that her friend's father was touching her. Then the girl changed position, and the man hurried out of the room. The next night, it happened again. In the morning, she decided to tell her friend about what had happened, to which the pastor's daughter replied, "Yes, he does that sometimes." All these years later, the witness kept a diary that she wrote in at the time, and in it, there is such an entry. "Guess what? Some man tried to kidnap Holly twice. It's a secret, so I can't tell anyone, but I think he might be the one who kidnapped Gretchen. I think it was Mr. Z." The woman confirmed to police officers that the Z stands for Zandstra. She is certain that local priest David Zandstra tried to kidnap her neighbor named Holly twice, and he is also responsible for the death of Gretchen Harrington. He killed this poor 8-year-old girl that he knew and trusted him, and then he acted like he was a friend of the family, not only during her funeral and the period afterward, but for years, the witness told detectives. While gathering material for the book, Mathis and Sullivan met with Zandstra. The former priest lived on the shores of a lake in Marietta, Georgia. The writers noticed that the man, unlike his wife, very poorly remembered the events of that day in 1975. The authors then attributed this to the man's age. In July 2023, 83-year-old Zandstra was summoned to the Cobb County Police Department for questioning. There, he still denied seeing Gretchen Harrington on the day she disappeared. He was then charged for the crimes against his daughter and her best friend. Afterward, he turned himself in and told what happened to Harrington. On August 15, 1975, Zandstra was driving his car when he saw Gretchen walking along the road. He stopped and offered her a ride to the church. When the girl realized they were going the wrong way, she asked him to take her home. Instead, the man drove her to a wooded part of a city park and demanded she undress. Upon receiving her refusal, he attacked her, after which he struck her in the head with his fist. After checking her pulse and making sure she was dead, he covered her body with sticks and drove to the church. Police are now checking Zandstra for involvement in other similar crimes. He had changed his place of residence several times during his life. For example, in 1991, he lived in Fairfield, California, where he was the pastor of a local church. That year, on December 27th, a 4-year-old girl named Nikki Campbell went missing there. She rode her bike to a friend's house and disappeared. Search dogs were able to track her to one of the intersections. Zandstra lived just a couple minutes from the girl's home. The child's fate is unknown. Gretchen's dad, Harold Boyd Harrington, died in 2021 at the age of 94. He never saw the publication of the book about his daughter's murder, nor did he recognize the name of her killer. The girl's mom, Ina, is alive and has had her questions answered. Zandstra faces multiple charges and is in the Georgia Department of Corrections awaiting extradition to Delaware County. I found out about this story thanks to a subscriber and thought it was an interesting enough case to tell you about. If you know of cases you'd be interested in seeing a video about, post them in the comments.